Hello everyone and welcome to season 2 of the GradCracker webinars. Season 1 was so successful we have decided to run the webinars again every Thursday at 2 p.m, featuring some of our really exciting key employers in lots of different sectors, including automotive, banking, consulting, energy, the armed forces. The list is almost endless. All of the webinars are listed on the GradCracker webinar page, so check out the lineup today and register your interest for the future. If you are new to the GradCracker webinars, welcome. The webinars are live and recorded, and we feature the recordings the following day on the Employers Company Hub on GradCracker and in the Career Centre as well. And if you've just joined us on the webinars, in the last season, it's great to see you back. We've got some really exciting news to share with you again today. We've got a new GradCracker logo, which is there on my screen, so I hope you like it. Right, so today what we're going to do is introduce you to the panel and introduce you to Cummins. So Cummins has advertised with us for the last 10 years, and they advertise their placements and graduate opportunities on GradCracker. You may remember Grace from the last Cummins webinar. Hi Grace. Grace, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Cummins?
Yeah, so thanks Carla. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining the session again today. So I actually joined Cummins in 2013 as a placement student, and then I came back straight back from university into a graduate role, and I've been with Cummins ever since. So I know the importance of finding an excellent placement employer, particularly if you're not too sure what it is that you want to do after university. I was quite unsure of what I wanted to do, but Cummins have been fantastic, and I'm really grateful to have been able to experience lots of different roles in my time here, and move around different areas of the business. I've met lots of different people, lots of different teams, and that's kind of really helped me figure out where I want to go, and it's kind of really developed me as a person. And I guess that's one of the main reasons why I ended up joining the recruitment team, so that I promote our placement and graduate positions to future students. So I'm really excited about today's webinar. It's also our first event of the season, and we'll be continuing to promote Cummins and our opportunities now until the end of the year.
Fantastic, Grace. So what did you actually study at university?
So I did business studies at Leeds Beckett, and I chose that degree because I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. But I think the good thing about Cummins is kind of no matter what you've studied, you get the opportunity to kind of experience different things, and we kind of support development. So yeah, I've been able to work in lots of different functions that I didn't think I would have been able to have gone into. Yeah,
thanks Grace, and we'll speak to Rebecca, Harry and Emma a little bit later on about their journeys so far at Cummins as well. But just staying with you, Grace, for now, could you just tell everybody a little bit more about Cummins, you know, what you do, who you are, kind of what industries you work in as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cummins are a global power technology leader, and we're headquartered in the US. We have nearly 60,000 employees across the globe and have a number of sites spread across the UK. So we design, engineer, manufacture, distribute and service engines and related technologies. And they range from fuel systems, controls, air handling, filtration, emission solutions and electrical power gen systems. And we make our products for a range of different industries. Some of them include agriculture, bus, marine, rail, trucking and many more. But I guess as well as being very passionate about our products, we're also very passionate about our people and creating an inclusive environment and champion diversity. So we have a range of different initiatives, and we're also quite passionate about supporting the communities where we live and work. And we have a community programme which allows employees to take part in volunteering projects in company time, which is really, really rewarding to be a part of. We're also quite passionate about corporate responsibility, so we publish annual sustainability reports, and we have done since 2003. We've got a very detailed environmental strategy as well, which looks out as far as 2050, and we've spent 14 consecutive years on Ethisphere World's Most Ethical Companies list. So there is lots more that you can learn about Cummins, so I'd encourage you to visit our GradCracker hub, and you can find lots more information on there. And hopefully can learn a little bit more about us on today's webinar.
Perfect, thanks Grace. And just tell the audience a little bit about the community programme. What have you done in the past?
I've done all sorts.
Yeah. Your favourite one then?
I think my favourite one, we've got so the site that I'm based at is in Huddersfield, the canal that runs through Huddersfield. So there's a programme that kind of takes disadvantaged people down the canal for a day out. So I got to help out and chat to some of the people on that trip. Steer the boat, which was quite nice.
Oh, that's exciting.
Locks and everything. So yeah, it's really exciting. There's absolutely all sorts of things that you can get involved in.
Yeah, I'm sure I've been to that canal because my brother lives in Huddersfield, so I'm sure I know which one you're talking about, Grace. We'll have to catch up about that afterwards.
Yeah.
So thank you, Grace, for the introduction. What we're going to do now is meet Emma, Harry and Rebecca a little bit more. So Emma, starting with you, my love. So you're currently on a placement at Cummins, aren't you? So can you just tell the viewers about what university you are attending and what you're studying?
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm coming to the end of my summer placement now.
Yeah.
It's been a 12-week placement. I've got a year left, so I'm doing a 4-year integrated master's course in physics at Lancaster University.
Lovely. And how are you finding the whole virtual experience, Emma, when it comes to your summer internship?
It's been different. And I think in certain ways it does make things a little bit more difficult, but then I think I've received so much more support because of it from my manager, Rebecca, and everyone else. So it's different, but it's still a great experience and you still learn everything that you would normally. So it's been fine.
Brilliant. And you're enjoying Cummins in the sector that you're working in?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So I've been placed in rotors and seals subsystem department, which I didn't really know anything about when I started.
Yeah.
But that was fine because they teach you everything you need to know, and it's been super enjoyable. And Rebecca's my manager, and she's been able to get me work in different areas and different topics so that I've got like a broad experience.
Perfect, thanks. And we're going to find out a little bit more about that later on. Rebecca, I'm going to move on to you because you're famous with Emma saying that you're her manager and how well you're doing managing Emma. So do you want to introduce yourself, Rebecca? So where you went to university and what you studied?
Yes, so I went to Salford University and also did a master's in physics. It was an integrated master's like Emma's. I've been at Cummins now for 6 years, and I work in the same department, so rotor systems, specifically in the bearings department.
Perfect, thank you very much, Rebecca. And Harry, last but not least, nicely branded Cummins. Where did you go to university and what did you study?
So I went to Coventry University. I studied mechanical engineering, and I did a placement year as part of my degree. So I spent a year at Cummins back in 2017 and 2018. Working in the same department that I'm in now. Yeah.
So how did that all work, Harry? So obviously you did really well in your placement year at Cummins. Did your placement come to an end and then Cummins offer you the opportunity there and then to come back? And then did they support you in your final year at uni? Just tell us a little bit more information about that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I basically got a job offer like near the end of my placement year, which is really nice, sort of going into your last year at university, knowing that you've got a job to go to. And like I found, especially in the third year, sort of a lot of my friends would have to be, spending a lot of effort doing CVs and applications whilst you've also got sort of coursework and studying for exams on. So it was really nice to have that. And it definitely helps sort of doing that placement year to get an idea of, the business, the company, the role that I'd like to do. It was a really good opportunity basically to give me that stepping stone to secure a job sort of after university.
Yeah, I bet. Did you find doing a placement year as well helped you in your final year? Do you know, like your dissertations, projects and things like that?
Yeah, so I actually did a project for Cummins in my final year, so that was really good. It was sort of a continuation of some of the work that I'd done on placement, but I sort of had access to sort of all of Cummins' resources. They provided me with a laptop. I could get in contact with people from the team and people that I've worked with on placement years whilst I was back at university in my final year. So I found that support sort of really useful to help with my dissertation.
Harry, would you say personally you performed better in your final year as well. Do you feel as though the things that you were maybe learning, and again, obviously working quite closely with Cummins still, that things kind of fell into place a little bit more, that you felt that you maybe even potentially got a better grade than you would have done?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think doing something like a placement year sort of really it gives you a good experience of the real world, because I mean, personally, before I went to university, I hadn't done any sort of work experience or worked for an engineering company before. So it was fine sort of doing all of the academic study and a bit of practical work, but I didn't actually know by the end of my second year what it was really like to work for a company in the real world. So I think doing that placement year really helped with that. And also just like the skills you get from doing a placement year, just like general things like project management and, you know, how you conduct yourself or send emails, and obviously things like work ethic as well, I think definitely helped. I mean, I know in my final year, I would sort of be turning up at the library at say like 8 or 9 o'clock, just because I was used to doing that from placement year. But it would pretty much be dead up until like 11 or 12, because when you're a student, you tend to work on a bit of a different sleeping schedule. But yeah, it was really good. It was a really good experience. I'd say it definitely helped me in my final year at university.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of those soft skills, isn't it, that people don't appreciate with working. You know, you just mentioned about getting up in the morning, but things like time management and everything else, I do think people don't understand that's something that they're going to have to do, you know, when you get a job or get on a placement. So no, thanks very much everybody for the introductions. What I'm going to do now is just move back to Grace. Could you give us a bit of an overview, Grace, of the opportunities which are going to be opening soon? So your placement and graduate opportunities are going to be opening in October. Just tell the audience about what opportunities are opening, locations that they can be based. With your placements, I'm just thinking now of Harry and Emma's stories. Are they a mixture of year-long and summer placements, internships as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, we're hoping to go live at the start of October, and we encourage students and graduates to apply early in the cycle. We try to assess candidates as the applications come in, rather than waiting until a deadline. We hire between 120 to 160 students each year, and we're really proud to be able to offer such a high number of positions and continue hiring throughout the pandemic. We actually hired a record number of students to start a placement with us this year, and we're expecting similar, if not higher, numbers for next year, which is amazing. It means we can provide more students with really valuable experiences in the business. We're also expecting to have some graduate vacancies based at our Darlington site within the engineering function, because we've got some really exciting projects coming up there, and those roles will be starting in 2022. Yeah. And all of our student and graduates are involved in real-time work and projects, so you'll be fully integrated into the team, treated like any other employee. Lots of opportunity for cross-functional working and potentially working with global teams. We're given lots of responsibility and support, and we really try to accommodate the different interests of the students and grads. So we try to get you involved in lots of different work that will help you grow and develop through the time with us. So in terms of the actual types of roles available, we tend to hire a lot of students into our engineering function, but we also have roles coming within some of the other business functions, and that includes manufacturing, quality, service, logistics, supply chain, and many more. We're expecting a lot of the roles to be based at our Huddersfield, Daventry sites, but we will have some based at our other UK sites as well. So definitely watch out for the roles going live on the Grad Cracker Hub. Keep subscribed so you can get the alerts for when the roles get posted. But we're aiming to go October and then throughout the rest of the year.
Perfect, thanks Grace. What Grace was saying there, so don't forget that you can follow Cummins on Grad Cracker. If you follow Cummins, you'll then be alerted by push notification on the app and email when they open up their opportunities. So definitely do not miss out. You know, as Grace says, get your applications in as soon as you can. And if you are watching this webinar, you know, me and Grace have spoken previously, following on from the first webinar that we did together. Grace saw a lot of the students applying mention the fact that they'd watched this webinar, and she really likes to see that, so make sure you do mention when you get your applications in. Just sorry, Grace, I'm going to put you on the spot, so don't shout at me, but just a question. Why are the recruiting numbers so much higher? Are you winning new projects? You know, why is that?
I think we really value the importance of bringing new talent into the business. So we're a hire to develop organisation. So you know, we're never going to stop hiring students and graduates. We have got lots of really exciting engineering projects coming up. So we're really keen to get graduates and students working on those as well. So it's a really exciting time for us. We're branching out into new power as well. So we're kind of looking towards the future of Cummins. We celebrated our 100th anniversary in 2019. A milestone for any company.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of looking to innovate for the future now, and with that comes new opportunities and new projects.
Brilliant. Yeah, students and graduates are really the way forward to a business like yours. You know, it's the next generation that we just need to keep pushing in, and this is why Cummins offers so many great opportunities. So thank you, Grace. I'm going to leave it with you for now, and I'm going to come back to you at the end to talk about the application processes and hints and tips and things like that. So for now, I want to get to know the graduates and Emma. Look, it's like you're the odd one out, Emma. I didn't really like that. A little bit more. So your current roles, I know, Emma, you mentioned about the department that you're in and everything else, but just give us a little bit more information about your current role and what you're doing, what you've got up to over the summer, and the team you're in. I know you mentioned Rebecca is a brilliant manager, but just explain to me your team in general, like your other members and things.
Yeah, well, I've had the most contact with Rebecca.
Yeah.
I do have some contact with the other team members, but not everyone. I think being online, like you said, it just makes things a little bit more tricky.
Yeah.
In terms of what I do, I think being a summer intern, there's a lot of things that if the department is particularly busy with, that they will ask you to do if they haven't had time, and it's actually really good because you get such a broad range of experience. So I've done quite a lot of like data analysis type stuff, especially for tech reviews. And then I have my own project as well. So I got assigned that pretty much as soon as I started. And that's like completely my responsibility. So that was for a piece of equipment that's used to test a new type of bearing called rolling element bearing. So that's kind of what my role is, but I work on so many different pieces, and I'm doing a work instruction at the minute for noise testing. So I've had like my toes everywhere.
That's good though, isn't it? Because if you can experience different areas of the business, then you can get to know what you like and what you might not like, for example. So you're getting a lot of exposure, which sounds really good. Grace, I said I'd leave you alone. I'm not going to, I'm lying. So this year, obviously the summer interns were virtual, like Emma's just mentioned. Do you know what the crack is for next year there, or for the graduates or the placements? Are we looking at virtual, or is it too soon to say?
We're kind of just reacting to the pandemic and kind of, you know, I know a lot of organisations are kind of taking a cautious approach as well to having employees back on site. Yeah. We will be adopting a flexible working approach, so forward that will be open to employees, and like other businesses, you know, we're kind of moving with the times now, and we're wanting to create a work-life balance for everyone. So we're anticipating a lot of roles will be a bit of a hybrid mix, so sometimes spent on site, sometimes spent virtually, so it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. But we do kind of recognise the importance of new employees, you know, being on site, meeting the teams. But yeah, we'll just have to kind of see what happens with the pandemic next year.
Yeah, I think this is it, and just play it by ear to see how things go. Rebecca, because you're on the same team as Emma, I'm going to move on to you. So a little bit more information about your role, what you do at Cummins, and the team that you have there. I'm guessing that you have more interaction with the wider team than maybe Emma has done.
Yeah, so I'm classed as a technical specialist in rotor systems, and rotor systems, as Emma touched on before, it's part of subsystems at Cummins, and it includes our ownership of journal bearings, thrust bearings, dynamic sealing, joints and bearing housings. So we basically work on all the center of the turbocharger. We've got a team of approximately 12 to 15 in the UK, and then we also work globally with China and India. We've got people there as well. So Emma has had time spent with people working globally as well while she's been on a placement scheme.
Yeah, brilliant.
So I've been managing Emma and a few of the other placements and new starters at Cummins, and it's been a bit tough this year working from home, because normally we would love to show in person all the components to our placement students so that they can understand things a little bit easier, but Emma's just been absolutely brilliant and seemed to pick things up straight away.
Thank
Well done, Emma.
you. Thanks.
Oh, I think everybody just needs to give each other a hug now. It's also nice and positive. So you mentioned, Rebecca, about speaking to people in China and India. If the world was normal, when the world is normal, do you in your team have the opportunity to go and visit other sites and maybe internationally?
Yes, so I was supposed to be going to China just 2 weeks before the big lockdown. So it is something that people in our group, we have to travel now and again. It's not something that I would say we're doing commonly, but maybe like once or twice a year, someone from our team will have to go either to mainly China or India, sometimes America as well.
Yeah. And what's the purpose of those visits then? So why would you go to China or India? What are you hoping to get out of it and bring back to the UK?
So there's a range of different reasons, but the example that I gave before lockdown was to look at a new piece of testing equipment to train up the technicians in China on how to use it, and also to check the repeatability and the correlation of the system with the same equipment on other sites. Yeah,
brilliant. Sounds fascinating. Thank you very much, Rebecca, for that insight into your team and your role. Harry, last but not least, tell us a little about yourself, what you get up to in your team there.
So I work in the analysis-led design and validation department as an analysis engineer. So I basically run analysis simulations to either like improve existing products or to validate new designs that are sort of coming through to ensure that our products are reliable and robust. It's quite a broad department because can sort of analyze any area of the engine really, so it's not like we focus on one specific area, which is good because it does give you the opportunity to learn quite a lot about the engine and the gensets and work on different areas. I think because it's so broad as well, even analysis sort of within that, people tend to focus on either structural analysis or FEA, things like that, but then also dynamic analysis, computational fluid dynamics, and just design engineering. So I typically do dynamic analysis engineering for gear train and valve train components, but I find it really good working in a department where you can, I guess, like gain a lot of knowledge about the engine by having opportunities to work on different things and learn more about Cummins products.
So if something's not quite right then, Harry, with the analysis that you've carried out on the engine, so it comes in, there's something not quite right, does that go back to the team that it came from, or is it your job to kind of figure out why it isn't right and make it right?
Yeah, so it depends really. I think it's a lot of the projects that I've completed, they're very collaborative. You're working with lots of different departments and sort of constantly communicating with them, giving them feedback. And if it's something simple, then I've worked on a project, say, where I just made like a minor design change, which is really easy to do, and I could just do that by myself. But then when there's bigger things, or things that need changing about the design of something new coming through, then you can essentially feed that back to the project team and give recommendations, and then it's up to them to go and discuss with other people and sort of make that call or make that decision on what they're going to do. So really, I think analysis tends to sort of guide other departments that are making those decisions and design calls to just help them make the right decision.
Brilliant.
And Harry, would your teams work on different engines? So it doesn't kind of matter to you what Cummins engine it is, any engine you would work on. You don't have teams broken up for the different types of engines you've got?
No. So the way it works, at least within Power Systems, the Cummins business that I work in, subsystem teams are split into sort of engine categories,
Right.
where it's based on engine size. But the department I work in, it's called a horizontal, but it basically means that we work across all of those different engine sizes. It's essentially like a technical function where we're doing analysis, but it doesn't matter the size of the engine. So I mean, I've worked on sort of relatively small engines for our business, all the way up until sort of engines that are the size of a small room, like Cummins 95-litre engines. They're sort of absolutely huge. And obviously the engine architecture for like a very big engine than a smaller engine changed as well. So that's another thing where you can get experience and learn more about, different engines, different designs, and why they are designed the way sort of they are.
Question, one more, and then
I'm gonna have to write down my thoughts now because I'm forgetting.
That biggest engine you said, for example, what would that power?
That was my question.
Oh, there you are. Thinking the line.
Yeah, so it can go into applications, I think, like marine, or really big sort of oil and gas, or some of our bigger engines as well used in mining. There's loads of applications, and also generator sets. That power quite a few sort of interesting applications. So there's a huge range of applications that the engines power.
Yeah.
I think once you recognise the C for Cummins, you'll look around and you think, oh, Cummins makes that. I didn't realise that. That's what I spend my life doing with all my employees, because I'm quite sad. Should we move on, Jess? Should we talk about learning and development?
Yes, let's. So that's something which we like to touch upon, because I can't remember if it was you, Harry, or it was you, Emma, right at the beginning. You're saying that, when you do apply for a placement, it's something that, when you are applying, it makes you nervous, doesn't it? If you haven't got any experience, if you haven't got something on your previous history to say you've had a job in the past. So once you get that job, what kind of support and development does Cummins give you to make sure that you can keep progressing? And how has that looked for you guys over the last couple of weeks for you, Emma, and over the last couple of years or so for you, Rebecca and Harry? So Emma, I'll come to you first. What's that look like for you?
So I've received, I feel like quite a lot of training. I think the first 3 days of the placement was virtual onboarding, which was a huge range of like training material.
Yeah.
But I remember there being a particular emphasis on being in a workplace, how you treat other people in a workplace, core values, and I remember especially diversity. And I feel like that is so useful, because it's strange to think that like working in an office, it's just like common sense, and the work that you're doing is the hard bit. But I feel like for some young people, that's the hard bit, is fitting into an office and understanding how to interact with people like professionally. So I feel like that's one of the most important things that I've got from the experience is that like workplace attitude.
I think it's even harder, isn't it, in a virtual environment as well. You can kind of, when you go into an office, you can kind of pick up how people interact with each other, how, the office moves along. But I think from a virtual environment, it could be just, for example, you and Rebecca on a call. So you don't really get to see how people necessarily interact with each other, did they? So I bet that was good to be able to be, I suppose, trained and developed in that area if it isn't something that you're used to.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why they did so much training on it, is because they wanted people to feel comfortable even working in video calls and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I can imagine, initially you could get yourself in a bit of an isolated situation, because you think, can I virtually ring that person? Are they even free to answer? Whereas, obviously if you're all in a room together, you can see. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think over the last, 18 months, we've all been in this situation. We've all learned different skills, haven't we? Those skills, Zoom etiquette and all this kind of stuff, which you would never even considered over a year ago. But yeah, that's really good that Cummins have given you that support, because like you say, it's stuff like that you maybe don't always think about.
I think I need some Zoom etiquette training, Jess.
I do.
No, I do. I'm just thinking sometimes when I'm on Zoom with Jess and my bottom half is like leggings or something, and Jess like, Carla, don't stand up again.
Oh no. And you know the winter months are coming, so the hot water bottles will be coming back out.
Blankets are out.
Blankets. Sorry, Rebecca, coming to you next. It's similar in terms of obviously your experience of learning development, and you know, I guess yours might have been a little bit different. And what have you been experiencing recently?
Mine was very different to Emma's, because I was on site. And I feel really sorry for the placements this year, but I'm sure it sounds from Emma that she's had a good time anyway at the company. I think the best thing that I found at Cummins was it was one-to-one hands-on training between me and my manager a lot of the time. You don't want to be sat doing an online course where you've got to just click next page, you read that next page. So for me, I really appreciated going down into the lab with my manager and him saying, right, so this does this, and you can say why, and there's no stupid questions at all. You can ask anything and not be judged for it. So especially as well with not just hands-on stuff but analysis-led design work, you could get one-to-one training with people that showed you how to do it, so it was easy to digest, and you could make sure that you understood it thoroughly before going away and being given a project to work on. So I felt really supported with all the training that I did.
And what the
timescales, Rebecca? So you've been at Cummins 6 years now, you said at the beginning. You know, you've just said that you have hands-on training and everything else, but when are you kind of left to it? You know, and I'm guessing you've got support there from your management and everything else, but how long do you think before you started to then you think, actually, I feel quite confident in what I'm doing here? You know, I'm all right to be left alone for a second, just, you know, so you can do things on your own.
Well, I think from the beginning, as Emma said, you're given projects that you're responsible for. You can then, the more confident you get, the less questions you'll ask to other people. So it's a natural thing where there's no cut-off point of, right, you've been trained on that now, so we'll leave you with it. It's not like that. It's you gain confidence and then you take on the responsibility without asking as many questions. And I think that's the best way to learn, instead of completing a course and then you go off on your own. And I would say I'm still learning, and I still have to deal with something new and different every day. So there's never a point where you feel completely comfortable and I know all this, because it just doesn't happen, unfortunately.
And even with the years experience that you've got, Rebecca, you still have that network of people that you can obviously still go to, ask those questions and get that support.
And I don't even think you particularly need a network, because there can be people that you've never spoke to before you can contact, and they're happy to help you. I've never known anyone at our work that has been difficult to talk to or reluctant to help.
How does that work though? Because if I was a student now sitting on the outside looking in at Cummins, and Grace mentioned at the beginning about how big Cummins is. So I know, for example, at Gradcracker, if I needed help from a visual aspect, like a design, I'd go to Jess. You know, that's where she's at. That's what, you know, Jess's skills are. But in a company so big, Rebecca, how would you even know who to ask, or, you know, who to connect with?
Yeah, amazingly, most of the time, especially working on site, you get to know people very quickly, especially from all the initial training. So you get contacts in the first couple of weeks where they all sit down with you and do a specific training course in their area. So you pick up some networks there, but also there are places on our online site which is available to employees which can tell you who to contact with what area you're looking for as well.
Perfect, thank you. Sorry, Jess.
No, it's okay. Harry, I'm going to come to you next. Similar question. Your experience of learning development, is it similar to Rebecca? Have you got any more to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say my experience probably reflects Rebecca's as well, especially because I did my placement year on site, and also when I came back as a graduate, I was in the office for about 6 months before working from home. But I found definitely in my placement year when I was starting, you know, there was so many opportunities for training. Sort of working with my manager quite a lot, you know, learning how to use different software simulations. And yeah, I think as Rebecca said, there's no such thing as a silly question. Everyone that I've come across as well has been really willing to, help out, even if you've never spoken to them before. And yeah, there's no such thing as a silly question. I mean, I found it particularly good because I did my placement in Daventry, and that's connected to the Daventry engine plant, where they assemble engines and gensets. So quite often, if I was, say, working on a project, and I had like no idea what the component I was supposed to be analysing was, or the system, I sort of go down with my manager or someone from the department that knows about it, and then they could show me on an actual engine that's being built, this is where it goes, this is how it works. And I think that really helped to get that understanding of Cummins engines. I mean, when I started, they normally do something at Daventry called engine appreciation. So you basically get to follow an engine for a couple of days all the way down the assembly line. And at each of the assembly stages, you sort of get to help out and get hands-on and help build the engines. And I found that was really good to get an understanding of like the size of the engines, but also the complexity and the amount of components that go into making an engine work, and everything sort of related to that. I found that it was a really good experience to see the engines in person.
Yeah, we're going to touch upon facts later, but in terms of
can I just say about just one thing. You mentioned in Daventry, Harry. I'm guessing some of our audience might not know where that is.
No, it's in Northamptonshire, so it's like very central. I think it's pretty much the most central point in England, or the furthest away from the coast.
Slap bang in the middle.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harry. I'm just thinking that people might not know. Huddersfield is obviously in Yorkshire. That's all I'm saying. Grace is smiling.
You do know typically then how long it would take to build one engine if you were to walk through the process, like I said, a couple of days. How long from start to finish does it take?
So I think normally the way they build the engine, it takes around a couple of days, and they line the engines up along the stages, and then they all move sort of along, and then at each stage they'll have like a time where you need to get a certain job done by, so everything can move on. And so it's about a couple of days normally, and then I think generator sets they can take a bit longer because there's extra components that you've got to add on.
I bet that's quite impressive to watch all that going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I found it, like, the first time I walked in, it was incredible, really. Because I hadn't been been to Daventry before I applied and seen the site, and you can read up about the size of the engines or the things they power, but I think you really need to see them in person to get that appreciation of it.
Brilliant. Next, I'm going to talk about projects. Emma, I'm going to come to you again first. And something you mentioned earlier, and it just made me smile, because I think sometimes there is that bit of a stereotype, isn't it? You think, if I'm an intern, am I going to get proper jobs? Am I going to be put on a proper project? Or, you always hear that, am I going to be just told to make tea and coffee? So what kind of projects and experiences have you had? Because you said you were given a project quite early on. So talk us a bit about that, or your favourite project you've worked on.
Yeah. So I think my favorite project is probably my project, right? Because it's my project, because so I think it's needed to be done for a while, but maybe they didn't have enough time or didn't have the resources. But it's like I said before, it's a piece of equipment, a type of rig that can be used to test a type of a rolling element bearing, and so I am fully responsible for it. I think it's great because I've had contact with, say, the person who is the expert on the bearing. Mm-hmm. I've also had contact with the person who has done previous work on the rig and is the expert on the rig. So I've spoken to different people, and then I've written a work request for the lab to do some work, which me and Rebecca are trying to push to get done before I leave. Hopefully next week. But
brilliant.
But it's nice because I have contact with the lab people, even though I'm not on site. And it's nice as well because Rebecca doesn't necessarily know much about it either.
Right.
when I started it, I felt like I almost became the expert on it.
Good,
and it was nice. And then and even if I had a problem with it, me and Rebecca, I'd go and say, I don't know I think there's a problem with this, can we do this? I don't know how that works. And we'd have a little brainstorming session and figure it out. So it's been really enjoyable, and I think I'm really happy that there's something that I get to like leave behind.
Yeah, definitely.
My legacy.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you not get a bit overwhelmed with this, Emma? Were you not a bit like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this? Do I know enough?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, when I first got assigned it, I was like reading, I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. How am I going to do this? But you know what? You just take baby steps.
Yeah.
And it's actually, it's actually really enjoyable, and it's not really stressful or anything like that.
Again, in that 12-week period, I can imagine you can look back and think how much, as you've said already, personally you've learned, your confidence and the knowledge you've gained, I bet is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It is strange actually when I look back, because I feel like it's gone really fast.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've also like learned so much in such a short space of time.
Yeah.
So I think it just shows that just like if you're not doing a year placement, if you're just doing a summer placement, you still get so much experience.
Yeah, that is the thing. It's still as important, isn't it? You're still learning so much as well.
Yeah.
So if any of the audience listening today thinking about doing a summer placement and applying, to Cummins, what would you say to encourage them to do it?
Well,
do it.
Yeah, just do it. It's just perfect experience. I mean, when I come out of uni, I know that I can do a job that maybe I didn't initially think I could do.
Yeah.
I'm a physics student and I'm doing an engineering placement. And at first I was like, oh, am I going to be at a disadvantage, or am I going to find it hard? But actually it's not like that at all. And if there's any like physics students that are thinking that like maybe they don't want to go into something directly physics related, then there's no problem. You can do anything. But I feel like internships are great because while you're still learning at uni, you can still get that experience, which you then use all those skills when you come out.
Yeah, definitely. Perfect.
I think Grace is going to touch a little bit later on as well about STEM students. This is who our focus is on today. And, you just hit the nail on the head there, Emma, that you are a physics student going into an engineering company. So I don't want the audience, just bear with us, audience. We are going to come back to that, and Grace is going to give you all some fantastic hints and tips about how you can be successful as a STEM student going into Cummins.
Perfect. Rebecca, projects. What's been your favourite project so far working at Cummins?
Yeah, so also I'd just like to comment on Emma's section when she said it's a bit uncomfortable when you start. You think, oh, will I be good enough? I think one of the times she got more comfortable was when she realised nobody knows everything there. Like she'd say, oh, I don't really understand this, and I'd be like, I don't either. Let's sit down together and work through it. And I think you became a lot more comfortable when you realised that we aren't expecting someone to just start work and just be able to run with a project. But you asked what project I liked. So I really like the work that I do in the lab, so the more hands-on work. So we do a lot of rotor durability testing and performance testing in the lab, and sometimes testing to destruction. So you see what the limits are of the components that you've designed from the beginning. So
that's interesting.
It is really interesting because you've come up with these concepts, you've designed them from the beginning, you've done all the analysis-led design work on them, and now you have this prototype design that you're going to see how it performs, and you get to give yourself a pat on the back if it does well. Or you go back to the drawing board. Oh yeah.
Where you've thought maybe it's not going to perform as well, or it's really exceeded expectations, or other way it's not?
One of the projects that I had when I was working, because I used to work in the dynamic sealing department, and it's a really rewarding feeling when you think, wow, this is better than I thought it ever could have been.
Brilliant.
And you get such satisfaction from it. As well, like the guys in the lab, the technicians that we work with, the engines and turbo technicians, are so knowledgeable and they're always, like Harry was saying before, willing to show you the bits of the turbo that you don't understand, explain it to you, and engines as well. And that helped me from the beginning to get used to how to design things and how to test things.
Brilliant. I bet that must be quite exciting, every day, going in, every day must be a bit different, but it was so nice to work on a project and see it all the way through. And
because
really rewarding.
You make your own tests up as well. So you write the tests that you do. Sometimes there might be something that was never done before. So you think, I'm going to try this and see how it works. So it's very research and development.
Yeah. So do you have pressure in terms of, again, I don't mean to sound negative, but, what happens if you've got to think of every single environment it could be in, every single situation. How do you make sure all that is covered?
Well, we have stringent procedures as well, so that we make sure that all our products are safe and that they can meet the customer requirements. But as well, it's just you need to have gone through with your manager as well when you start all what is expected of the project, what's the scope of the project, and what are the really key important things that are the deliverables that can't be changed in any way. You can't allow any sort of shortfalls in them areas, such as safety.
Definitely.
How does the work come in, Rebecca? So is it, you mentioned about customers there. Do customers come to you and say, look, I need an engine that does this? So how much is it based on customers coming to you? And also on the flip side, you inventing products that you have to go out and pitch to your customers?
So normally, because I work on turbochargers, normally we have an application team that is more customer facing than I would be. But then in later discussions, I may potentially have communication with the customer as well. But that's part of agreement in the scope and the technical project of that specific component that you're designing. So we will start discussions on filling in that technical profile of what we need to deliver at the very beginning of a project, once then customer communications start.
Thank you.
Harry, I'm going to come to you next. Favorite project?
So actually I've recently worked on a big comparative study looking at the capability of like various valve train components. I really like this project because I was working with lots of people in the US and India. So personally, I'd never done this type of analysis before. It was completely new to me. And I found there was a few subject matter experts that were, based in India or the US. So I was having lots of Zoom calls and speaking with them and sort of learning how to run the analysis and learning how everything worked, which I found really useful. And sort of as part of the project as well, you were using like real life data that we were getting from the engines. So, it was actually getting data from engines that were being run around the world, and then also speaking to people that work in, say, applied mechanics and getting hold of test data and various other inputs that go into the analysis. So I found that a really good project, sort of really rewarding, and it definitely helped to give me a better idea of all of the different inputs and things you have to consider when you're running that type of analysis.
This is the thing about data analysis, isn't it? Making sure you actually understand it and what does it mean, what's the situation. What would you say that you learned from doing all that and having to do that remotely as well, over Zoom and things? What was the kind of big learning curve for you for that?
I'd say I just learned a lot in terms of how to actually run the analysis, but also just people skills in terms of having to schedule calls and set up meetings with people that are in different time zones. Sort of occasionally you'd have to have calls with a few people on the call at once that are on sort of completely different time zones. So sort of trying to plan in advance and get a meeting booked in that sort of small crossover time when both people were online. So I found that's definitely something that I've gained from working at Cummins, that sort of project management and those softer skills that you get from working in a business that I don't think you'd necessarily get from just sort of being at university.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting how you've all kind of touched upon your softer skills and learning and, you know, progressing those, which is really, really good. Next is a question I absolutely love, because we never know what the future is going to hold, do we? Who knows what's around the corner? But Emma, I'm going to come to you again. What is your plan, if I dare to ask? Would you like to come back to Cummins? Can you see yourself working in a similar industry? Can you see yourself... Where can you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, so it is a difficult question.
It is, isn't it?
Especially for a uni student. But I think the one thing I can say is that I would definitely like to, you know, try out anyway, engineering, because before this internship, it wasn't something that I'd really considered much. Yeah. But now I'm like, well, this is great. This is really fun, and I think I'm all right at it. So yeah, I think when I come out of uni, maybe, I mean, if I'd love to come back to Cummins if they'd have me.
Hint, hint.
Hint, hint.
Yeah. But I feel like I just feel more confident now after this placement, and it's nice to see kind of real life situations as well. But yeah, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but engineering looks good to me.
And this is the thing, and this is the brilliant thing. I know we're talking a lot about placements, and there is a huge benefit of doing a placement. But, you know, it's one of the reasons why I say to students to do it, because, you know, you've been exposed to an industry now, which, you know, say 2 years ago, you might never have even considered or even thought you could work in. So it's just great that it's opening up doors, isn't it? And you know, you can see a career now potentially in an industry which you never realized you could have. So well done for doing it, and well done. Just one quick question before I leave you, Emma. Why did you apply to Cummins? You know, you said it about a physics student. What initially then attracted you to apply?
Well, first of all, I went to a virtual careers fair. Like, it was similar to this, but not quite. It was more one-on-one.
Not as good.
Yeah, so it was terrible. But yeah, and it's a really weird coincidence, but I actually spoke to Rebecca.
Right.
Yeah. And she's the one who told me about Cummins and engineering, and I'd seen like the logo.
Right.
So I was like, oh, they look familiar, and then it kind of just, you know, just one of those, oh well, I'll just apply, and oh, I got through to the interview, and oh, I've got it, and then you do it, and it's great. So it was a bit of a strange. I kind of fell into it, but I'm really happy that I did.
Yeah. Good
Rebecca
job.
is an inspiration by the sounds of it, Rebecca. You're inspiring.
Yeah, when she says it was a weird fluke, I think it's more like, I remember speaking to Emma, she was brilliant. Let me manage her, please.
Oh.
Yeah, Rebecca, sorry, Emma, stop putting yourself down. You seem like you've done really well at Cummins.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Rebecca, you go first. What's your 5-year plan or your future plan? Where would you like to go next with Cummins?
So obviously I want to keep working for Cummins in the future. I would like to gain some more experience in some different areas, just to get a more diverse knowledge set, so that I can understand better, especially failure modes of turbos, and then hopefully get to lead my own technical team. So big dream.
So you will.
That sounds exciting.
Definitely. And Harry, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say probably similar to Rebecca. I think I sort of want to continue working for Cummins, continue developing my technical engineering knowledge. And I think over the next 5 years, I'd like to try and get some experience of sort of coaching, and with like an eye to potentially go into management and leading a team in the future. And also on the technical management side, sort of using that to be able to get involved in more sort of high priority, big projects and have a bigger influence on those projects.
Yeah, brilliant. Sounds like a good future plan, guys.
It does.
Very solid plan.
Very exciting plans. And I think now we've come to the time we're going to speak to Grace again. Obviously, the audience, you're going to be enthused and excited to apply to the opportunities that Cummins has got open in October. So Grace, tell us all a bit more about the recruitment process, what's it going to look like this year, and what the students can expect.
Yeah, so students can search for our vacancies via GradCracker or our careers website. When you've found a role that you're interested in, you click to apply by uploading your CV. You can apply for as many roles as you like, and you'll be looked after by one of our dedicated recruiters. If you are eligible to apply, then you'll be invited to complete some online psychometric testing. And then following that, there'll be either an interview or a virtual assessment centre, depending on what role it is that you've applied for. We do aim to notify you of the outcome of your application as quickly as we can as well, just so that you know where you stand, and then you can relax and carry on focusing on your studies before you start.
And yeah, we mentioned before, Grace, about applying through GradCracker, and me and Grace have worked hard to update the Cummins hub as well. So there's lots of information on there about the recruitment processes, some videos which are well worth a watch if you are considering applying to Cummins. Emma is proof in the pudding here, Grace, about being from a STEM background. So you want to give some quite specific hints and tips to our STEM students out there who are watching today to try and boost their chances of being successful. Do you just want to go through those?
Yeah, so as you've said, Carla, we really want to encourage all listeners to consider a career with Cummins, whether you're studying engineering or any other STEM subject. So we do hope that hearing about Rebecca and Emma's successes from their physics backgrounds, as well as Harry's experiences, will, hopefully make you consider us. We really value our diverse workforce, and we really appreciate the kind of different perspectives that students from all different backgrounds can bring to the roles. So I did just want to share some tips with everybody. I'll try not to make it too long, so I know we're out of time now.
Don't worry.
But yeah, so firstly, we just want you to encourage, we want to encourage you to kind of have a genuine interest in the role that you're applying for, and be prepared to answer why you've applied for that role in an interview. Do some basic research about the company that you're applying to, and think about where you could potentially fit in with the company values, and think kind of what your own values are and what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
And then more specifically, we really encourage you to do some basic research when you're applying for more specialised roles. So carefully read the job description, look at the business unit or the site where the job is based, and just do a bit of research to boost your knowledge. So as an example, if you're a candidate studying maths at university, but you are interested in mechanical engineering role at, say, our Darlington engine plant, do some research on what we do at that engine plant. Learn a little bit about the very basic operations of an engine, and think about some of the skills and principles and processes that you've learned on your course and how they would be transferred to that role at Cummins. And just by having that really basic knowledge, it demonstrates to us that you've got a genuine interest in the role and that you have applied yourself and finding out some of the, the more detailed bits of it.
Yeah.
Preparing for any technical or role-based questions, also make sure you have a think about some of the important behavioural skills that you possess, and just be prepared to discuss those with some examples, whether that's from kind of anything that you've done at university, any kind of hobbies that you have outside of university, any personal experience. They're all really interesting to tell us about. And then finally, once you have secured a role, just be prepared to learn, ask as many questions as you can. Encourage it. We kind of encourage you to build some networks internally that can help you expand your professional contacts, and it can get you visibility in the business, which always helps for when you're looking for future roles and opportunities with us.
I was waiting for you to stop there, Grace. Have you finished?
Yes, yeah. I think I've finished. Yeah, I could go on and on, but I think
I was waiting for you to take a breath. I was like, is she done? Yep, she's done. Yep, done. Yeah, obviously everybody here wants you all to be successful. Me and Jess at GradCracker and all the GradCracker team are behind you guys when you are putting your applications in. So much so, don't forget that we've got the Career Centre on GradCracker, which is full of really good information, hints and tips. Grace mentioned there about thoroughly reading the job description. Our colleague Hannah has put an article together about how you go about reading that job description. So a bit of a to-do list, not to be a nag, but I am, a bit of a to-do list after this webinar. So go and have a look, follow Cummins to be alerted for their new opportunities. go and have a look at the Career Centre on GradCracker, have a look at all the articles that Hannah's written to make you a successful job hunter. And don't forget, this is the first in a series of webinars. So go and have a look at the other webinars that we've got in the future. But for now, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today and taking your time out. Good luck for the future for everybody. And Emma, I hope to see you again in 2 years' time. Working at Cummins, doing another webinar, saying, oh yeah, I used to be a placement student. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt.
I'll be there, don't worry.
it's a date. So yeah, thanks guys for joining us today. It's been really, really interesting. So we are back next Thursday at 2 o'clock, aren't we, Jessica?
We are,
love, yeah, we're back. And next week we are joined by Transport for London. So find out how London keeps moving with TfL. So see you all next Thursday at 2. Bye bye, everybody.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.